You're lazy, you're stupid, you're not good enough. You probably tell yourself things like this every day. So let's talk about it.
Superhuman.
That inner critic that we all have in us makes me think of Darth Vader in his situation. Before Darth Vader was the asthmatic Sith Lord we all know today, he was a decent dude named Anakin, who hated going to the beach for some reason.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
What the fuck are you talking about?
But at some point, Anakin went from a decent guy to a bad guy. And part of that is he was constantly manipulated by this other dude, Sidious, who was always in Anakin's head exploiting his insecurities.
Don't you wonder why they won't make you a Jedi Master?
Now this reminds me a lot of that inner critic that we all have in us. That little negative voice that's constantly feeding into our insecurities, trying to manipulate us, and telling us we're not good enough. So here are 3 things that might help you keep that under control.
1. Kill the rumor.
There's a show on Netflix that's based on a popular comic book. It's about these young heroes who were born with superpowers, who all grew up together in a big mansion. And it's called it's called Umbrella Academy. My bad. Now, one of those characters is named the Rumor, and her superpower is anything she says to someone becomes the truth.
I heard a rumor that you shot your friend.
What the hell?
So basically, she can say something that's not true, and people will believe it. She should work for Fox News, am I right? Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah, okay. Sure. Anyway, she's a great character, except that she might be in love with her stepbrother? Yeehaw! And a lot of people make incest jokes about that, but me and my girlfriend don't really like incest jokes. Ain't that right, sis? Anyway, here's how the rumor relates to your inner critic. Research suggests that these inner critical voices we have usually come from early life experiences. So many of these negative voices come from our parents or other primary caretakers. And we pick up on these negative attitudes and we carry them with us into adulthood. Thus, someone said something to you and it became the truth. Why does this matter? Well, knowing that these thoughts were artificially implanted in us can help us understand that they're not often based in reality. So that critical voice in your head, probably not even your voice. And that negative attitude, probably not even your attitude. They were likely given to you. And if they were given to you, they can be taken away.
2. Reprogramming Terminator.
Before director James Cameron directed Titanic or Blue Kahanas, he made a little masterpiece in the 80s called The Terminator. And if you haven't seen it, it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a robot assassin from the future. And he travels back in time, butt naked for some reason, because he has been programmed to kill a guy named John Connor. It's a really great movie. And fun fact, Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't the studio's first choice to play Terminator. No, their first choice, and I'm not making this up, was O.J. Simpson. Wow, I can't even imagine. No one would believe O.J.'s an assassin. Come on. Anyway, in the sequel, Terminator 2, Arnold Swollenfinger gets sent back in time again and travels butt naked again, but this time he has been reprogrammed not to kill John Connor, but to protect him. Now this reprogramming changes the Terminator from a menacing bad guy to a somewhat awkward good guy. And this is what we have to do with our inner critic. We have to reprogram it from being a discouraging voice from our childhood to a supportive voice in our adulthood. Oh, I know. Easier said than done. But try. I want you to think of someone in your life who has always supported you. And if you don't have that, I want you to think of a fictional character on TV. The mom from The Simpsons or something. I don't know. It's fine, as long as you can imagine they're supportive. Now the goal is to change your inner critic's voice to that person's voice. Pretend that person now lives in your head. Picture that person talking to you and not your inner critic. And narrate your thoughts with that supportive voice. And yeah, it takes a lot of work and practice to reprogram your Terminator. But it's worth it. Great, now I can't get Marge Simpson's voice out of my head.
3. Fear gas.
One of the things that makes Batman so great is he has a lot of cool villains in his rogues gallery. But there's one badass villain that I feel doesn't get enough recognition. And that's Scarecrow. Oh, my bad, wrong Scarecrow. This Scarecrow. Now this was actually one of Batman's first villains, and he often uses a fear toxin as a weapon, which is a gas that brings out irrational fears in the minds of his enemies. Oh, and another fun fact, in the 90s, they almost made yet another live-action Batman movie, and this one was going to feature the Scarecrow. And this Scarecrow was going to be played by Coolio. Yes, that Coolio. Again, I'm not making this up. Scarecrowlio almost happened. but the movie was never made. Now, I bring up Scarecrow because your inner critic does exactly what he does. It exploits your underlying irrational fears. Anytime your inner critic discourages you, it's based on fears you have deep down. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. All roads lead to that fear. It'll be like, don't eat that Hot Pocket, don't eat it or you'll get fat. And you'll get fat and then no one will love you and then you'll die alone. Kinda dramatic there, buddy. See, those fears aren't often rational. You went from don't eat that Hot Pocket to you'll die alone. So next time Scarecrow hits you with that fear gas and your inner critic starts discouraging you or putting you down, try to stop and pinpoint what that underlying fear really is. And ask yourself, is this fear really rational? Sometimes you might have to dig deep in this situation, and it might be uncomfortable, but that's how we grow.
I hope this helps.
There are lots of different things you can do to try and silence your inner critic. These are just some of the things that work for me. Because at the end of the day, guys, you don't deserve to be put down, and you don't deserve to be held back, and you certainly don't deserve to be put down and held back by your own thoughts. So keep working at it and keep reprogramming yourself. And hey, maybe eventually you can handle your inner critic the same way Darth Vader did. All right, guys, I love you. I'll see you next Monday. I'm responding to comments on Facebook and Instagram, so you know what to do.
Girl, I'm like the McRib. I'm gonna do what I do, no matter what you say. I'm living my life, Okfei, ooh yay. I guess that every Superman has a doomsday. I'm living my life, Okfei, ooh yay. I can take a loss, and I can handle rejection. I just wanna have an effect like Rush